Welcome to Technikwald. In this video we are going to disassemble a Sonos Play 5 second generation, which is dead since an overvoltage occurred. So if we plug in the device, nothing happens. The indicator light stays off and the device does not connect. The first thing we investigate is how to open the device. There are no obvious screws, and also below the rubber pads there are no screws, so no need to remove them. That means we need to somehow remove the main cover in another way. In order to do this, we start with unplugging the main power cord by gently pulling it out. With the main power cord removed, we now can put the Sonos on its back, but make sure to have some clean surface when you put it down, because else you will add several scratches. In the next step we are going to remove this main cover here. In order to do this we need several tools. The first one is such a trim removal tool, like this blue one, but it can be any plastic part that is slim enough to fit in this border here. We need to go around the whole cover with the tool, so make sure it is really slim enough and hard enough to use it. We start with the trim removal tool at the bottom of the speaker cover to loosen the speaker cover from the main cover. As there is some glue inside, it may need some force, and you can use one finger to pull away the main cover from the speaker cover and to gently go through. At the top there's a special condition because it is filled with a lot of glue and is heavily attached. And there you need some extra force to really put the removal tool quite inside the speaker cover so that it is really loosened afterwards. The Sonos sign itself is attached to the main speaker cover front, so we just leave it for the moment. You may need to do this procedure several times on each side, so that you can really loosen the speaker cover from the main cover. But be aware that you don't put too much force. As you can see here, I got a crack as I put too much force into removing. If we now have loosened the sides, we can use the removal tool to lift up the speaker cover from the main cover. I started again at the bottom, and as the speaker cover is only held in position by some plastic rubber clips on several positions, we now really need to lift it out there. Make sure that you put the removal tool as far as possible inside, so that you don't just remove the front cover of the speaker cover, but the whole speaker cover. Put the tool inside, try to lift it, and you get some feedback as it is a rubber clip, and as soon as you succeed you see that it stays outside and not tries to get inside again. So the right bottom is already removed, and then we go around and loosen the whole cover until we reach the Sonos side that is glued. Now the speaker cover is already very loose, however it is still glued to the main cover with the Sonos sign here, that is also the play button. Here we need to remove the glue, and I did this by putting the removal tool in there, but make sure that you don't damage a speaker. Just put it in and try to remove these glue parts, right and left and directly below the Sonos sign. It really takes some effort, and the Sonos sign with the play and pause button is more flexible than you think, so you can really put some thought in there, and at some point it will just come off and is removed. As you see here, there's a lot of glue below which held it together. It's no problem, we can just reattach this afterwards. This is now the speaker cover with this plastic rubber clips that held the speaker cover attached to the main cover. So there are two on each side and two small ones next to the Sonos side, which made it more complicated to remove it. Having removed the speaker cover, we can now remove some screws with a Torx 20 screwdriver. The screws are in the shown holes with an additional tool below such covers, such rubber covers. In order to remove them, I used a small watt screwdriver and I just gently pulled them out with them. It is cumbersome as I didn't want to destroy them, but you can see you can remove them with this. Next one. It's a bit tricky, but it works. Maybe you can find some better tool, but it works for me. So, and here we go. If you have a look now, you can see those screws, and now all screws are reachable and can just be unscrewed. When all screws are removed, we now can remove the speaker unit from the main cover. But make sure that you don't just pull it out, as there are two cables connected to the main board. The connectors are locked with two plastic things, so you need to go in, unlock the connector and then gently pull out the cables, which can be a bit hard as there's not too much space, but it is doable. The first one has a real big lock, and the second one you just need to press it and you can remove it. And then the speaker unit is disconnected and can be put aside. The inside looks quite clean and quite stable. There are also two stabilizer bars inside, and below the stabilizer bars there's the main board that also has the fuse on it that might be blown. And in order to disassemble it, we will now remove the stabilizer bars also with the Torx 20. Now we can focus on the electronics, and here it is to mention that there can be a high voltage still on the Platines, so don't touch them. On the right side we see the processor and the Wi-Fi and so on. In the center there is the main power connector that we will now remove. So it just connects through from the main power line to the voltage supply. Then we also unplug the small cable here, and then we have this flatband wire where we just have to unlock the connector, and then we can just disconnect the cable. Before we continue with unscrewing the main platine, we need to measure the current voltage in the capacitors. This can be done by two test points in the upper center of the main platine. For that we are using a voltmeter and just put the contacts to the test points. And as our Sonos here was not in operation since a few days, there is no voltage left. However, on another device I already measured up to 270 volts. So really make sure to measure the voltage between those two test points. In the next step we now can use a Torx 10 to unscrew the main platine. There are several screws, so make sure that you remove all of them. When all screws are removed, we can easily pull out the main platine from the device. Just take it and put it out. Now we can start with the analysis of the electronics. As the problem is attached to the power supply, we started looking at the main power cord inlet. Next to this we can see that there is a varistor, that there are some capacitors and also this little fuse here. And this fuse we are going to check in the next step. We will check the fuse from the bottom side of the platine with a normal voltmeter and just measure whether it's still conducting. So we switch to the conducting mode and then we measure and we see there's some open load. That means at least the fuse seems to be blown. And if we have a look at the varistor, it also seems that the varistor is somehow blown. So both parts will be replaced in the next step. In order to remove the fuse and the varistor, we put the platine in some fixtures so that we can reach the top and the bottom easily. We start with unsoldering the fuse. Since the fuse has a plastic housing, there's no need to use such pliers. You can just use your fingers and grab the fuse while unsoldering. So done. And in the next step we will now unsolder the varistor. You can again use your fingers to grab it and to get it out. That was easy. So let's now have a look at the varistor and let's open it to see whether it was really blown and completely destroyed. As you can see, the varistor's front cover is torn open and it's completely broken. So let's now replace the components with new ones and hope that it's enough to change the fuse and the varistor. Let's begin with the fuse. The direction does not matter since the fuse is a symmetric component. Just put it in there and then you can directly solder it. Let's continue with the varistor. In order to protect the surrounding of the varistor if it gets blown again, we will put it in a short piece of shrink. It's quite narrow, but it should fit. When the varistor is prepared, we can just put it in place again. As for the fuse, the direction does not matter. The varistor is also a symmetric component. In the last step, we cut off the two long legs and then we clean our soldered PCB. Now we can start with the reassembly. In the first step we put back in the Platine. Make sure that it is properly installed again and that all the holes for the screws are fitting again. You will feel when it's really in position. With the Torx 10 we can now put the screws back again. I will only put 2 screws back in order to check whether the repair was successful or not, and then it's enough to just have the Platine in place. For the function check, also all cables need to be connected again. This is the flatband cable, it's the power cable and the small one at the bottom. To perform the functional test, we will also install the speaker unit. The easiest way for the installation is to put the device again upright and then put your hands from the top in there and connect the 2 connectors. Then I installed the main power cord and connected it to the power grid. And now it's plugged in. And it's working again. So it will now boot, and now we have the proof that our repair was successful, and now we can finally assemble the device completely again. After the successful functional test, I removed the speaker unit again. But we cannot directly start with the reassembly. As you can see, after such a functional test, there are up to 300 volts at the capacitors. So let it unload before you continue. For that reason, I left the device for about 1.5 hours. In order to keep the device quiet, we now put some hot glue between the varistor and the capacitor behind it, so that nothing can move when the bass is on. Now we put back also the last screws that we didn't put back for the functional test. Make sure that you put all of them in place again. Then we put back again the stabilizer bars. You can fix the screws with the Torx 20. Then we can put back the speaker unit. In order to do this, we have to connect the two connectors again. We will do it as we have done it the last time. So we put the device upright and then put the speaker unit very close to it, and then we can plug the connectors in from the top. It is quite narrow, but it should work. To screw together the device, we put it on its back again and then start with putting the screws back again. Finally, we can also reassemble the speaker cover again. The most important part is the play pause button that needs to be correctly aligned directly at the beginning of the reassembly. So we put the device upright again, and then we try to correctly align the button directly in the beginning of the reassembly. And then we just gently put the speaker cover back in there so that the plastic snaps and the rubber snaps are going back in their positions again. When the play pause button is in its correct position, then we can put the device on its back again and then just gently press on the speaker cover in order to bring the rubber nips back. And when the speaker cover is correctly assembled again, we can just plug in the main power cord and we will see that the device is now working again, as our functional test already has proven. And that's how you disassemble, replace a fuse and a varistor and reassemble a Sonos Play 5 2nd generation. Thank you for watching this video on Technik Vault. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if so, you can give me a thumbs up.